video is for you if you're someone who generally shows up pretty authentically in most aspects of your life. Maybe you're somebody who has achieved a lot of the things that most people kind of are striving for, whether it's in your relationships or your business or your family or your finances or the possessions that you've acquired, whatever. But even though you generally feel pretty okay or about the things that you've created and maybe proud or happy of them, about them, but there's like something deep down in you that is not feeling satisfied with your life right now. You don't feel as happy as you feel like you should be, and there's something more that you're being called to do or create, but you're not yet quite sure exactly what that is. Or maybe you do know, but you're just like, how the fuck do I get from here to there? So this video is for you. So I'm going to walk you through, basically, this is like the 12-step process that I go through with everybody when I'm working with them. So I'm going to help you think through these things. You can ask yourself the questions. You can, if you're not going to work with me, then ask other people around you who are good at thinking outside of the box to help you see possibilities that you probably don't see already and to think through things differently. So, and maybe at the end of this video, you decide you do want to work with me. That's cool. I would love that. But also, I want you to know and understand, either way, this video is going to be helpful because you're going to have a better understanding of how I approach things. And either you can apply it by yourself and take it and run, which is awesome, or you're going to be like, holy shit, I want to work with her in person. And then we can talk about doing that. So, numero uno. First of all, if you're working with me, I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to do it right now too, to pause and take a deep breath and ask yourself, how am I feeling right now? And then just take a minute to be with that and to notice, are you feeling a little discombobulated? Are you feeling anxious? Are you feeling impatient? Are you feeling happy, excited, curious, whatever, right? So the core of my work is about helping people self-connect and come back to, how are you feeling now? What information is that giving you about your deeper needs and desires? And then how do we figure out practical action to support you in moving in that direction? But first, you have to pause long enough to feel your feelings. So then I want you to ask yourself, why are you feeling that way? Right? And it's not going to be, there's not just one feeling that you're feeling. There's probably multiple feelings that you're feeling. So you can kind of go through and in your head and be like, okay, well, I'm anxious because I feel distracted because I know that I have to make it to my kids' gymnastics class in an hour, or whatever the feelings are, right? So there might be some that are sort of more temporal, in the short term. And then there might be other things where you're, if you really tune into it, you might be going through a process of grieving. Speaking for myself over here also right now. There might be background things that are happening at a deeper level, right? So it's up to you to figure out how, or just to explore how comfortable and how kind of deep can you access the feelings that are there for you right now. And then figure out what is contributing to those feelings. Then, this is kind of key, and it's almost cliche in a way, but it's still so true. You're probably dealing with a lot. So take a minute and give yourself a little compassion for what's going on for you right now. What extra hard things have you been dealing with lately that maybe you haven't had to deal with in the past, or that most people aren't dealing with? Or in your life, right? What stressors do you deal with on a daily basis that other people don't have to deal with, or that you didn't used to have to deal with? And also, what are you doing pretty well right now, despite it all? It might be something as simple as well, I still take good care of my dog, right? Or, well, I'm still working out. Or, I'm still showing up for my kids. Or whatever it is. At least I took a shower every day today. Whatever it is. Every day today. I'm a little tired. So, to acknowledge how we're feeling, to look at what are these factors that are contributing to how we're feeling, and then to give ourselves a break, right? So it's just kind of what happens out of every conversation that I end up having with my clients. It's like, they come over to me and they've got this big box of feelings that they haven't quite explored yet. And then I'm like, okay, let's sit down. Let's open the lid. And what's inside? And then they're like, well, and then they pull out one, right? And then they're like, well, we've got this going on. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. What else you got in there? Well, this. And then by the time we get them out, we're like, well, it's a lot of stuff you've been carrying around there, right? At the core of my work is compassion for ourselves and for other people, because we're all just doing the fucking best that we can. And I'm not interested in solutions that are coming from a place of the force, hustle, grind mentality. I am all about getting a ton of done quickly when we feel inspired and resourced and we want to do it. But I have paid too high of a price to, like, with my health and with my relationships, that I am no longer willing to compromise on my self-care, on my sense of aliveness and inspiration in my work. Once we get to this part, I want you to close your eyes, or you could open them and you could write if you've got a journal around, or type, and ask yourself, what is it that you're wanting right now? And again, I want you to kind of go from the short term and get that one taken care of at a broader level, right? What are you wanting right now? What are you wanting more of in your life? So I have a couple of these different categories that you can go through. What are you wanting more of right now? What would you like less of right now? And just write down the first things that come to mind. Less from my partner could be. You don't have to judge it or put it into pure language right now. Just get it out of your head. What would you like different? What do you feel frustrated by? Obviously, I'm telling you, so I think I do need to tell you, but I'm just reminding you that you can pause the video and write out what you want to write out and then continue. Or if you're like me, you're just going to watch it all and then maybe write it out later. What are you sick and tired of dealing with? What are you feeling worn down by? And what else? What else are you wanting right now? Like anything else that comes to mind. And to me, it's just real important to not judge these. Also, to separate out whether you think this is possible. I'm not asking you if you think this is possible. I'm asking you what you want. Two separate questions. So write out everything that you want. And this is kind of the next level of this exploration. What do you wish you could have if anything were possible? Like, what is your heart really calling you toward? What is your body craving? Touch, movement, hydration, exercise, rest. And another way, you don't have to answer all these questions, obviously. I ask a lot of questions. Just answer the ones that you want to answer. What's been on your mind nonstop? Is there something in the background of your mind? Either that's in the background that you just come back to every now and then, or something in the foreground of your mind that you just can't stop thinking about. What is it? Write it down. Get it out of your head. And then another frame is, what is it that would sound really fucking nice right about now? And it could be like a break from my kids, or it could be a drink, right? I'm not an expert in addiction. I'm not going very far down that road, but I needed to acknowledge. I was like, well, some people are going to be like, well, a drink sounds really fucking nice right now. Then that's a whole nother level of exploring, what does that do for you, right? What are you getting out of that? And why are you feeling that way? And what's causing you to feel that way, right? But I think that question of what sounds really nice right now, it's it gets us this sense of relief. And in my experience, moving towards what feels like a sense of relief has been really powerful. And you can't always, if it's something that's not healthy, then maybe you aren't going to stay there very long, or you need to do the next level of exploration around what that is. But oftentimes, if we give ourselves permission to really want what we want, and that sense of relief can be good for us. Sometimes it's we're going for, I think that's what it is. We go for a drink of alcohol because we can't have the thing that we actually really want. So what is it, the thing that you actually really want? And then, when you're done with that, we get to move to the next part. Because I love helping people figure out their desires figure out what's stopping them from their desire, having those desires, and then figuring out the practical next steps to get there. So we've gone through these. What are your desires? What are your needs that you have that aren't being met? What do you want? And now we're looking at what's stopping you from getting there. And why are those things stopping you? So there could be logistics involved, right? Like, well, I want to go to the gym, but I don't have somebody to watch my kids or whatever. So sometimes it's logistics. I don't know I want to snuggle with somebody, but I don't know anybody in this area to snuggle with, right? Like that would be a logistical challenge. Did I say this was business edition? This is interesting, isn't it? Business and life, it's all related. So maybe it's you're wanting, right? Like you just don't want to get on another sales call, right? You can't stand sales calls anymore, or you've just been doing them so long that it feels mind-numbing and you're good at it, but you're just sick of it. So ask yourself, what is stopping you from having that right now, right? Like what is stopping you from giving up sales calls or having someone else do them or finding a different way? So it could be logistics. It could be limiting beliefs. Oftentimes, there's a degree of unraveling codependence that needs to happen in here. And then trauma, like recovering from trauma, right? That ties into our limiting beliefs. And sometimes we need to heal our past traumas in order to step into believing or having the things that we really truly want. So it is outside of the scope of this video for me to get into all of how to address all of those things that are blocking you. But it's so important and clarifying once you write out what it is, right? Because then once you see that challenge, then you can start to think of solutions for it, right? So if you don't have anybody to watch the kids, not having somebody to watch the kids is not an issue that a 6 or 7 figure business owner would have. Let's take the example that you want to shift to having a 4-day work week or a 3-day work week. And so what is it that is stopping you from having that right now, right? Like, so on a logistical level, it might be that you're not sure how you're going to fit in all the client calls that you have in that few days, right? Could be a logistical question. But there might also be a limiting belief in there that like, well, I'm making so much money, but that's only because I'm working so hard. I don't really deserve to make the same amount of money if I'm working less, right? Maybe that's in there. I don't know. You tell me what your limiting belief is. And it could be unraveling the codependence of like, well, but my clients are depending upon me and they can't do it without me, right? Or my staff or my team or whatever. And there also can be some trauma involved in there, like related to your parents telling you that you're lazy for taking time off, right? So those are all these different levels that we have to look at. What is stopping you from having that thing that you want? So once you get clear on those things, and you can do some of the emotional processing, which is outside the scope of this video. But then my favorite thing to do is to do thought experiments. So in order to zero in on a solution, so I come up with hypotheticals that could give you what you want while also taking into account or addressing the challenges that you're facing. Some of the ways that I end up framing these questions are, well, what if you could do X in a way that didn't require Y? Then how would you feel, right? So if I say like, well, what if you could work 3 days a week in a way that didn't require you to drop any of your clients? Would that feel good? And usually you're going to have a quick sense of like, well, yeah, that would feel great because I want to stay in touch with all my clients. Or you could be like, well, no, actually, I don't want to work with all of my clients. If I'm only going to work 3 or 4 days a week, I want to cut down on the number of clients that I work with. So these are the questions that when you start to do these thought experiments, help us zero in on what the practical solutions could be that will get you what you want. What if you could do X in a way that didn't require Y? Then how would you feel? So this is where you might want to have somebody else help you think through, or me, help you think through how you could do that. So another question would doing Y still bother you if you could also do Z? So let's say that you don't want to drop your clients, right? But we could say, well, would dropping your clients bother you on the one-on-one calls if you could still serve them in a group format? And then you think into that and you feel into that and you're like, well, I guess no. Like, no, I really want to have the one-on-one time with them, right? That would be clarifying. Or you might be like, well, actually, that could work because then I could just have one call and I could meet with all of them, right? So, I mean, these are kind of simplified examples in a way, but chances are your solutions are actually about that simple. It's just that you can't see them right now because of the perspective that you're stuck in. So, would doing Y still bother you if you could also do Z, this other thing that you want, right? Okay, and then another question that I often ask is, well, did you ever consider doing A, right? Whatever this other thing is that's totally out there, right? Did you ever consider doing asynchronous coaching calls or asynchronous, like Voxer coaching back and forth, right? Or, so I'll ask all sorts of questions. Did you ever consider this other thing? So there's all these other things that you, in order for me to help you zero in, or anybody else to help you zero in, is to look at, well, what are the other options that you haven't considered yet? How could you do X in a way that didn't require Y, right? So we're separating out these assumptions that you have that X and Y have to go together. But then we're looking at, well, let's separate these other assumptions that if you have Y, you can't have Z also. There's not something that you could add to Y that would make Z feel better to you. I hope you like math as much as I do, because I don't mind filling in complex concepts with random letters, but I do like algebra. Okay, another important question I would ask you, why did you stop doing B, whatever B represents for you, right? You're tired of doing coaching calls. Why did you stop doing sales by emails, right? Or why did you stop doing group sales calls, or like something that maybe they've done in the past that they've chosen to stop doing? And then that gives me more information because, well, this used to work for them, but then they stopped because of this reason. Sometimes that reason actually doesn't apply anymore and they actually could go back and do this thing. So there's somebody who built their business to support their dance routine, like their dance career, but then got so busy building their business that they couldn't do the dance career that they wanted. And so then I'm like, so why did you stop doing the dance career? And they're like, well, because I was working on building my business. I'm like, okay, so how can we scale back your business so that you can come back to doing dance, which is what you love and which is what this was all about from the beginning? Okay, so looking at why did you stop doing something, but then also asking yourself, what if you just stopped doing C, right? So what would happen if you just stopped doing sales calls? Maybe that's what the topic we're on. But it could also be like, the part that I hate about sales calls is doing the, I'm just making shit up here, but like, is processing the transaction, right? So what if you just stop processing the transaction? Somebody else would have to do it. So then you like transfer them just to your assistant when you're done with that. And then your assistant could process the transaction. So think through your head, not just what would happen if you stopped doing that, but also how would you feel? And I'm looking for what feels like relief, right? And you're like, well, if I didn't have to do that, I'd feel great. I'm like, okay, then we're on the right track here. So the question is, how do we get somebody else to do that for you? Or how do we solve that logistical hurdle? But we know that that's what you want, is to just stop doing X, Y, Z, elemental P, whatever letter we're on. Okay, so another really juicy question is, what makes you not want to do, I'm on D for this one, I wrote these down. What makes you not want to do D, right? So let's say you're tired of group coaching calls, and I say, what makes you not want to switch to selling in the DMs, right? So like through direct messages. In case you know, there's a range of people. Maybe you don't know what DMs are. And so then again, that comes up with, maybe it's some limiting belief you have. Well, selling in the DMs isn't as effective. But you would get more joy because you wouldn't have to be on these sales calls, right? Or so like what makes you not want to outsource the sales calls to somebody else, right? Well, I don't think somebody else could do it as well as I do. Or I really like to have the hands-on approach. So those are different things, right? Like, I don't think somebody else could do it as well as I do, to me, is a limiting belief, because you can find somebody else who can sell well, and it's going to be worth it. If you don't like doing that anymore, then it's going to be worth it to have somebody else do it, even if they only do it 95% as well as you did. But to say, well, I don't want to do that because I like the hands-on, that's not a limiting belief to me. That's like looking at, okay, because you like that part of it. So we're going to look for what is it, the parts that you like, and we want to keep focused on that. Okay, so what makes you not want to do D? Here's my last one. What would happen if you asked so-and-so to do such and such? So again, thought exercise that we're on. And it could be your assistant, right? It could be a new person that you're going to hire. It could be your competition. It could be your mom. Like, this is where we get to look at, like, what are the resources that you already have in place here, right? I can't go to the gym because my toddler needs me. It's like, well, what if you asked your mom to watch your toddler while you went to the gym, right? Or what if you asked your partner to watch your toddler? Or what would happen if you asked your assistant to do your sales calls? Well, that would be a show. Okay, well, why? And which parts of it? And which parts could they do? And which parts can't they do? So this whole thought experiment to me is just, it's like helps us flesh out the details, right? So when I ask you, what's your vision of what do you want for these things? Like, you can show me this grand vision, but then we need to like go in and fill in the details. I have this picture of a painting, right? Because I've been doing some oil painting lately, abstract shit. So you're like, okay, well, I want it to be pink and I want it to be blue. Okay, well, so now let's get into the nitty gritty. Like, do you want the pink to be over here, or do you want the pink to be down over here? Like, these thought experiments help us figure out the details and the nuances of what it is that you're really wanting, so that we can create solutions that really address the precise needs and concerns that you have. So, and I say we, I mean, like, if you were working with me, that's how I do it. If you're not going to work with me, then it's still this process of, you got to address those nuances, right? Because when somebody gives you a cookie cutter solution that doesn't address a particular aspect that matters to you, even if that cookie cutter solution fixes 9 out of 10 of your problems, that 10th one is going to feel and so it's not going to feel like a good solution. So going through these thought experiment questions helps you figure out, like, okay, so you like these 9, but you don't like this 1. So now we have to find a solution that works for these and doesn't do that. Okay, it's doable once you get clear on those things. So from that point, it's usually pretty easy to figure out practical, doable steps that often feel quite easy. If not easy, they're usually at least doable. Sometimes this could be in the form of setting a boundary, which in my world means telling someone or getting clear for yourself on what you are going to do differently in the future. So the boundary could be, next time someone requests that they have a sales call with you, you're going to refer them. Next time someone, I'm right, speaking from your perspective, next time someone requests a sales call with me, then I'm going to say, you can talk to my assistant about that, right? So that would be some sort of boundary that you could set. Or I have so many other videos about boundaries. I'm not going to go into it right now. But you could set a boundary. You could ask for support. You could do something new and different. Or you could stop doing something that you have been previously doing. These could be simple things like, okay, I'm going to send an email, or I'm going to change the copy on my sales page, or I'm going to make a request of my assistant. I'm going to change a setting on my phone so that I don't get notified about these things on the times that I don't want to get notified. It could be taking a different type of action. It could be making a phone call. Sometimes it could be like, I'm going to go download an application, right? Like, I decided I want to go do this thing, and the first step is to download the application. So figuring out what is the practical, doable next step that you can take that takes into account all of these nuances that we've figured out of what you want and what you don't want. So then it's about taking the action, right? And actually doing that thing, which, like I said, usually by the time I work with people, they're excited to be doing that thing. Like by the time you get through all of those things and you realize that, like, oh, well, I don't want that, but I do want this. And if I do this, then I'm able to have that without having this other thing. And so you're like, okay, well, I'm going to go do that. So usually it'll be pretty fun and easy. The other thing that comes up often at this point, and I tell my clients, is to be on the lookout for the thing that's going to come out of the blue. Because there's something that happens in this process where we free up so much stuck energy, is how I think of it. And we've cleared out the resistance and the limiting beliefs. So then there's new possibilities that come out of the blue, often from channels that we already have in place, right? Like, oh, well, somebody on my email list wrote to me, or I forgot I had posted this job posting on Indeed last month, and now somebody responded to it that feels like the perfect fit, or whatever. Sometimes it's through totally new channels, but it's often through channels that we already have in place. But now that we're like energetically more receptive and open to possibilities, then the right thing will just pop up into our life sometimes. And at that point, once we've taken that action, maybe something out of the blue has happened, maybe it hasn't, but we're just moving forward with the action either way, then I come back and it's time to like reevaluate and reassess and repeat the whole process again, because we're never going to stop asking, like, how do I feel now? What do I want now? What do I want to create with my life? What does my current circumstances allow for? What are the constraints of my current circumstances? So I like to have my clients, once we've, like, let's say we've met, we've gone through all of this, then a month goes by and we meet again, or 3 months go by if we're on a quarterly basis, and I say, okay, so what new opportunities have come into your life since we talked last time, right? Well, so-and-so reached out to me and they made this offer for me. I'm not sure if I want to do that or not. Or like, well, my parents moved into town from across the country, so now that's an option to help with the kids. Or like, just what new opportunities, because life does present new opportunities, and it's easy for us to diminish them or disregard them, and just to lose track of, like, oh my god, 3 months ago I had no idea that I would, like, how I was going to solve this problem, and now look, I have an opportunity right here that could solve that problem. But also there's often new challenges that are faced, and so when we have the new challenges, sometimes that's also what keeps us from like appreciating or acknowledging the new opportunities. So what new challenges have you been facing? Like, well, my partner had surgery, so we're dealing with that, and so that means I don't have as much time for these other things, right? Like, it's just life. Like, life is going to happen every moment. It is happening. So sometimes there's always going to be beauty in it, and sometimes there's going to be challenges along the way. So to, again, take stock and acknowledge, how am I feeling now? Why am I feeling this way? What new opportunities, what new challenges have come my way? And then to take time to celebrate the progress that we've made. This is something that I think it's easy as entrepreneurs to lose track of, because we always have the next new thing that we want to create. And one of the things I love about working with people on a quarterly basis is that it's like a long enough time that there can be significant changes, and we can also be like, well, look, like last time we met, you didn't want to do sales calls, and so sure, right now you're trying to figure out how to handle all the new sales that are coming in because you have 2 other people doing sales calls for you now. But like, this is a great problem that you're having now, because 3 months ago you didn't want to do sales calls, and now you're not doing sales calls. So let's just take a minute to appreciate and celebrate that. And then we'll dive into solving the next problems, right? Because there's always another problem to solve. But there's always something to celebrate for where we are. And then we also have to look at like what didn't get done and why. So every now and then, like the practical next steps that we come up with, they may not get them done, right? Maybe they just didn't have the time and they still want to do it, or maybe some new level of like resistance came up that they didn't realize, or that they may not realize until we're talking about it again. And I'm like, okay, so last time you said you wanted to go do this, And we talked about that it was hard for you because of this and that, but then you decided you could do it. So, but you didn't. So why was that? And then they'll be like, well, I didn't realize when we talked last time that blah, 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 right? And so then we just talk through that again and we're like, oh, okay. So, and then we come back to the thought experiment questions. So if you didn't have to, if you could do this without doing that, would that work for you? And just helping them figure out, like, how do we figure out the next doable step that takes into account this new challenge or constraint that we didn't account for in the first time. So that, like, that's so much of the process that I am in with people. I mean, there's different ways that it shows up. I'm going to do another video so you don't have to work with me in 2025 about relationships, because it's a similar process that we go through in relationships, but there's just different things I have to say about that. But it's still, when we're talking about relationships, this question is still like, how are you feeling? What are you wanting? Why are you feeling that way? What are the challenges? What are the limiting beliefs? Right? So this is sort of the main core focus of how I approach just about everything for myself, my clients, my life partners, my business partners, my kids, everything. So I hope this has been helpful for you. Yeah, so I'm curious if you find this helpful, and if you either go through this by yourself or you get support from somebody else and you get some clarity and insights. I would love to hear about it. You could send me an email or post a comment. But if you decide, like, actually you would like to work with me, so I hope that this has been helpful for you. If we were to work together, the difference, in my opinion, between you working on this by yourself or with a friend or working with it, going through the process with me, is that I think we'll probably, like, drop into deeper levels of what it is that you're wanting or how it is that you're feeling. Like, I'm very attuned to people's emotional states and to their level of enthusiasm or aliveness or sadness or resistance to things. And so I will pick up on the microfacial expressions that you might have that will make me be like, well, do you really want that or do you not want that? And, like, ask some questions to kind of flesh out what it is that you want exactly. So we would touch on deeper or different aspects of how you're feeling than if you do it on your own. And I'm going to ask questions that are going to help you get to a deeper level of clarity. Like, these are kind of the generic questions that I could offer you. But if we're talking one-on-one, I'm going to have much more specific questions that are going to go exactly kind of to the heart of your situation, right? And then the other thing is, I'm really good at coming up with different possibilities and solutions that other people haven't thought of. And it's something it's, like, hard for me to me, sometimes it seems obvious, but it's not obvious to everybody else. So when you come up with the questions of, like, well, have you considered doing this? Or what if you did that? Like, that's where my brain just, like, it's like it puts together okay, you want this and you want this. And then I'll just come up with a bunch of different possibilities, some of which you either haven't considered or you've considered and you've rejected for some reason. And I'm offering you a way to do it in a way that actually could work for you that you hadn't thought of before. So that's basically everything I have to help you with on this that I can think of for this topic of this video. So I would love to hear how it is. I would love to hear a comment from you. You can't tell that I'm banging this pillow over here just for fun. So I have so much more in store for you. If you found this video helpful, you can check out my YouTube channel. You can check out my membership program. You can sign up for an intensive with me. I would love to be in your world more. But also, I hope you can just take this video and run. And I hope it serves you well. Okay, take care. Big hugs. Bye-bye.